Okay, so this is a little bit of an agenda for today. I'll go over my background and give you some history there. And we're going to talk about how and what it's going to be like to deal with people that are not from the military, even though our profession was started in the background is really as corpsmen. Applying to PA school, you're going to have to use a different set of skills, communication skills. And so we'll talk about that a little bit more specifically. The other thing we're going to talk about is what you look like on paper. And when you have different, a little bit of a different background than maybe somebody else, I'll talk about some different scenarios and how to address them when you're filling out your application. We're going to talk about, when it gets to the interview, what will work best and what will help you get on to the next level, which is at least getting on the wait list, right? And never worry about being on the wait list, because I can tell you most programs use a majority of their wait list because there's so much turnover. And then I'll give you some helpful hints for paying for PA school as a veteran, and what are some of the resources that are out there that you can tap so that you don't have to pay out of pocket. Okay. Now let's see. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am a PA of about 25 years now. I've been in PA education for the last 15 years, and I have always held two jobs. I always worked clinically in the beginning, and then once I got into education about 11 years into my career, I started working clinically part-time when I was in education full-time. And the job that I did was working for the military as a contracted person, helping do pre- and post-deployment physical assessments for the different service areas. And so I was seeing service members both before they were going into combat and afterwards when they would come back, and trying to help them get hooked up with the right resources. So I am very passionate about the military. Both of my grandfathers and my father were all in the military. And so I think that's one of the best populations, and, to actually get to go to PA school because of the experience that you get. So I'm going to hopefully be able to help you sort of finalize and make some little hints more readily visible in your application and in your interview. Okay. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is communication. Communication is super powerful. How you are presenting yourself, both verbal and nonverbal cues, are really important when you talk about communicating who you are. In the military, it's much more succinct. We don't use emotion to show change of mood and that sort of thing as much. And so communicating and building a relationship are going to be really important, especially in that interview. And you all, if you've been in the military, know that you know how to communicate with team members. You're going to be good at that. That's one of the skills that you're going to excel at, because you've all had to depend on each other and the people in your unit. And so communication should be something that is up your alley. But you want to make sure that on the civilian side, you're communicating in a way that's receptive and that really conveys what you're trying to tell the person you are communicating with. So make sure you smile, make sure you make eye contact. Your first impression is predominantly made with body language, which is a nonverbal cue. This is a case where you want to be remembered. You want, when the program discusses the interview, in the next meeting, that they remember you, that they have a good first impression of you, and that you're somebody who you want in the program. You want them to be fighting for you. So that first impression is going to be really, really important. Now, service members are fantastic at making sure they look presentable and dressing well. So just use those skills that you have to convey that great message that first day. Okay. Your tone of your voice, we're not going to shout or anything at the people that we're interviewing with. And if you get angry, just take a breath, take a deep breath. If somebody's missed over you or skipped over you and has moved along, politely raise your hand. These are things that I'm sure I don't have to tell you. So just be sure to convey a confidence, and because the military provides you with a whole lot of experience that people just coming out of school and going into graduate school don't have. A lot of these people just want to get into PA school and they don't have the experience that you all have. And you want to highlight that, and you want to show what you're all about and what you can do. That's going to be really important. So, make sure that you make eye contact, because somebody will notice when they can't see you, okay? Or they can't see your eyes, I'll say. You want to make sure you're conveying some emotion, and things that you're excited about, you show excitement, and things that are sad or, really tough for you to talk about, you want somebody to pick up on that emotion because it makes you a human being. And being a PA is all about being empathic and listening to the patients. And so you want to convey that those are all things that you do well. Posture and gestures are going to be really easy for those of you in the military. You've had to carry those things all through your career, so I'm not worried about that. Just make sure that you make eye contact, that you smile every once in a while, and you want to think about what it is you can share about yourself that's going to make you memorable, okay? So I always tell my students, nobody can promote you like you can promote you, okay? So I want you all to think about what is something that either changed for you when you were in the military, what was a story that really touched your heart, or a condition or something that you saw that changed you, or maybe perhaps made you a different person, because I guarantee you didn't go in the same way you came out. And so I want you to think about those things that make you a unique candidate. If you've heard nothing else, you all know, even as the new programs can get 1,000 applicants for however many spots their program holds. And it varies anywhere from 15 to like 100. So it depends on the programs you go to. But you also might want to surf on the programs that you're thinking about applying to. Make sure you go to their web pages and check them out and look to see that they have all of the possible like yellow ribbon acceptances and promotions, and all those different kinds of campaigns that are only offered to service members, because that will help you as well. But think about what is it about you that's going to make you memorable and make you unique. In the last place I worked, before I moved here to Indiana, I had a student who was in the military and was a medic. And so he was on the front lines. He had amazing, amazing experience, but that wasn't it. The thing that we all remembered from his interview was that he had invented a special tourniquet that the military actually uses now, and sold it to the military, and was going to PA school basically just to run his business better. So really think about these things. Think about, what it is you want in PA school. What is going to really convince somebody that you are a star candidate, because that's what it's all about. There is so much competition that we have to really see something unique in you in order to select you for the program. Okay, so let's go through a couple of scenarios. Like, what do you do when you have a low GPA in a course? And I know that sometimes, there's a long period of time between when you take those prerequisites and when you actually go to apply to PA school. And unfortunately, some of the programs are really limiting how long those prerequisites can be done in, anywhere from 5 to 10 years. So think about it. If you know you have a low GPA, because the average GPA of the person that's going to PA school now, the average is about 3.5. That means there are people who have better than that and a few people who have less than that. So you have to try and gauge what your overall GPA says about you. If you have a low GPA in a certain course, like say you got a D in organic chemistry and 3 of the programs that you're applying to require organic chemistry, I highly suggest you retake those courses and go ahead and redo them to bring up your GPA. Now, if you have a whole degree already and have 125 credits behind you, it's going to be really hard to change that GPA. But at least by redoing the course, you are showing that you care about learning and you care about the grade you got enough to retake that course and do it again. Okay? It's really important. It shows that you're determined and that you want this. So the other thing you can do, even if you take it at a community college, I have heard colleagues say negative things about taking it at a community college, and they only took it with that one course by itself. So you need to look at your application as a whole and try to see it as we see it. You can explain, have a reason for taking it at community college. Be sure to tell them money was really tight. I came back off of 3 deployments and I needed to make sure that I had a class in the evening, so I took it at the community college. Whatever it is, whatever scenario you have, these are the things that we're going to remember about you. Okay, so make sure you share those personal details. That's going to be very important. Okay. So that's what I suggest with the low GPA. It's going to be very hard to bring it up if you already have a full degree worth of credits, but just showing that at least you're willing to retake the courses that you didn't do well in shows that you really want it and you want to do better. The prerequisites, if it's been more than 10 years since you've had a course, I suggest you redo it, especially if the program is requiring it to be within 10 years. Now, as a veteran, if you have, say, 3 deployments during that time period, use that as your excuse. I was deployed 3 times, so I couldn't, I would have liked to have taken and refreshed my class, and ask for them to do an extension for you or a special I forgot what to call it, but basically you want to make note that your organic chemistry class is more than 10 years old, but you were deployed 3 times during the last 10 years and you really didn't have the chance to retake the course, and ask for a waiver. Okay, sometimes the programs are willing to give you a waiver for a course, and the admissions person is the person at the college who's going to tell you the most. Okay, so make sure you ask them specifically if you have prerequisites that are older than whatever their requirement is, if there's any way due to your deployments you can get those waived, or if they could possibly talk to you about what you should do about that. They may tell you have to retake those courses, and then there's nothing that you can do for that program besides retaking those courses, but they may also offer a waiver. So it's worth it to ask. Okay, let's talk about the shadowing versus volunteering. Now, shadowing is very different from volunteering. Shadowing means you're going into an area, any discipline of medicine, and you are looking to see what the PA does in that job. Okay. It's really important to shadow. A lot of programs put a lot of emphasis on the shadowing, and it's better for you to go, say, and observe internal medicine for 40 hours than to do 3 8-hour rotations in 3 different specialties. Like you looked at derm in one for 8 hours, you did internal medicine for 8 hours, and then you did surgery for 8 hours. And why I say that is because it's such a low amount of shadowing. And I know the shadowing is hard to get, but that's why you have to start now, and you have to start as you're applying to really start networking and start feeling out the PAs who live in your area so that they can hook you up with shadowing experiences. You want the shadowing to show that you're willing to see, because you can't see everything that a PA does in an 8-hour time frame. You're not going to see everything. So you really want to spend, if you're only going to do 40 hours because you just can't, that's all the time you can give, you want to make sure it looks like you're really dedicated and you stuck with someone for as long as they would let you. Volunteering, on the other hand, is also really important. A lot of our programs are really putting emphasis on what kinds of community service and time that the candidates are giving of their personal time. And it's really important. If you are, say, really about helping young people, with learning disabilities, let's say, make sure you set yourself up in a scenario like that to go volunteer or do a walk every year or participate on some committee that shows that. Volunteering hours for a lot of programs also give you a higher number when they are grading you on the interview and application process. People really like to see that you're very selflessly able to give. Okay. And so you want to be able to show that. And it doesn't matter what it's in, because there's a big difference between shadowing, volunteering, and your patient care hours. Your patient care hours are about making that one-to-one patient contact. Whether you were a phlebotomist in the military or you were a medic, whatever it is, I guarantee you saw and did more than most people in those jobs, everyday jobs, okay? And so therefore, you want to make sure you highlight that, okay? You want to talk about, if it gives you an extra space to write a little essay, like if there's anything else you want to convey in the application, make sure you talk about a patient that you took care of on the battlefield or somebody you met in the hospital or something else, so that you can highlight all the experiences you're having, okay? It's really important. Like I said, it is so competitive, and I want you guys out there getting these places in these programs because you deserve it, okay? All right, now I'm going to pause for a second because it looks like I have a couple of comments here or questions. So let me see if I can get to that. Okay. Okay. Okay, so this is a great scenario. So this person is talking about she's just retired from the military, and she was barely around her kids. And so she took a whole year to be a full-time mother and was taking a class or two every other semester or whatever. And she has a couple classes left to take. And one of the information sessions, she heard that when assessing the application, if they see you take only 1 or 2 classes at a time, it shows you can't handle the course load, and that's not favorable for you. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. These are the kinds of things where you guys deserve an exception, okay? Yes, people will judge when they see that on your transcript. They will judge that you're only taking 1 or 2 courses at a time unless you tell them otherwise, okay? So somewhere in that application or in the supplemental, you want to find a place where you get that in. And even if it's in your essay, but you want to make sure you give them a reason why you're doing that, okay? Because you guys have a lot of different priorities. And so you want to show that you're not just taking 1 or 2 classes at a time, but you're being a full-time mom and you're, working part-time to help support your family, okay? So you want to make sure that that gets into your application somehow. Okay. You also want to be able to tell them, that you can handle the load. That is true. Okay. You heard me say, okay, retake a class if the grade is good. So all your science classes are A's and B's, and the non-science prereq statistics got a C. I would not necessarily retake statistics, no, because it doesn't matter. We definitely put more value on the prerequisites that are needed. And we're going to give you in the program the information that you need to help do the statistics course that they have and to help you do research. That has kind of changed in the 15 years that I have been in education. We are now having our students do more regular types of research instead of just a project reviewing research. So it is important, but they're not going to look at statistics the same as, the organic and Chem 2 and genetics. Okay, those are more important. And if you can get A's and B's in those, that's where you're going to make the decision on what's the best for you. And if you don't have time to retake it, that's okay. Okay. You're just going to explain why that is. Okay. All right. So we've talked about, the whole point is you want to get across and be promoting yourself the entire time. You guys from the military and gals, I won't use, sexist wording here, but you all want to be able to portray yourself and for the experience that you get, because there is nothing like it. And it sets you apart from the rest of the applicant pool. So you want to make sure you really focus on what makes you unique, what experiences, think about some stories of some patients you took care of, anything that was really moving for you, a family that you took care of in Iraq when you were deployed, in what's not already on paper for you. So say you want to say about like that last example for this applicant who retired from the military and is taking her last prerequisites 1 or 2 at a time so she can be a full-time mom before she goes back to school. Okay. This is a chance in the interview, if you get that golden ticket, okay, this is a time for you to really let them know. So if at the end of the interview, or say they ask something about your prerequisites, oh, I see you got a C in statistics, you can say, yes, I did. And yes, you may be looking that I only took my classes 1 or 2 at a time towards the end there when I was finishing my prerequisites, but I had just retired from the military full-time and I needed to be a full-time mother that year. And so I was really just taking my classes 1 or 2 at a time at night as I could fit them in and as the schedule allowed. Okay. Anything like that in the interview is going to get written down and they're going to share that with the team. Okay. That's making the decision. The other thing I want to warn you all about is being honest. Okay. We do background checks on any potential candidates that are accepted into the program. And if anything comes back, and on all the applications, it asks if you've had a felony, if you've had a misdemeanor, just be honest. I have seen countless times where students were supposed to have had their records expunged because something got caught on their background check, say before they were 18 or just as they were 18, and now they're 23 and they've forgotten all about it, and it comes up. It's far better for you to say, oh, I was kind of, not very bright when I was in high school, and I was drinking, and I got caught driving, and I've never done it since, and I took the class, and I will never do it again. You want to kind of, be able to explain that away. It's not good for us to find out about that when we do the background check, because then it means you've left it out. It's far better for you to come forward and be organized and be honest about it from the very beginning, and let us know. Okay. The other thing I want to tell you is, don't try to explain away bad grades because of a bad teacher. Okay. As your new teachers, we don't really want to hear that. Okay. So try to think of something else. It was a very challenging, quarter or semester for me. A lot of people have things that happened in their family. I've heard a lot of sad stories, and we definitely are more empathetic to those people and willing to maybe give someone a chance if they tell us honestly what happened. Also, the interview, be prepared to talk about your weaknesses and talk about your strengths, okay? A lot of military people have really good leadership qualities, and they're very organized, and they are very disciplined. Those are good things to portray in addition to being empathetic. So be thinking about all those different things that make you who you are, and that maybe contributed, as you were in the military, and write them down and have those notes in front of you when you do your interview, or practice beforehand, so that you can refer to those things, because those are the things that we will remember about you, that we'll jot notes down about, and we'll give the admissions committee, some things to think about. And when I can convey a story about the students that's very moving, whether it influenced you in a good way or a bad way, it always helps me build the case for fighting for those students. Okay? And trust me, there are those of us out there that think that just being in the military, you should automatically be accepted. So give us something, give us some evidence that we can use to fight for you, to get you into the program. Okay? Think back to all the experiences you had. Think about those memorable stories. Think about the people you met. If even you just got to travel to really impoverished areas and, that made an impression on you, that might be good enough. You want to share those things, because that's what it's all about, is making you a memorable candidate, so that when they come to your name, somebody can fight for you and can get you on that wait list or into the program. Okay? And, think about teamwork. The big push in medicine has always been, we as PAs have always believed in teamwork, because we are dependent practitioners for the most part. But teamwork is just coming to a lot of other professions in medicine. Teamwork is important. Nobody takes care of a patient all on their own. Even if you're out in rural Indiana here and you're seeing patients, you're still going to be part of a team. So think about what teamwork means to you. Be willing and able to share some things about what teamwork is to you and how you've pulled some of those skills from your experiences. That makes for a really good, substantial interview. Okay. Okay. Now let me see if we have any other. Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, so now we're going to be going into how to pay for PA school. And as the, my slide does not want to advance, sorry. I don't know what's happening here. Let me see. Sorry about that. Just trying to get this to move along. All right. Let me take a second to do this so I can. Okay, so let's go back. And I got stuck. All right, paying for PA school. We're going to talk about that now. I know somebody was, it just does not want to go to that slide. Okay. Okay, paying for PA school. So there are some other things that you can think about besides the GI Bill. Most people know about the GI Bill, okay? The GI Bill, I bet one thing you didn't know, because I didn't know this until I was doing the research for this presentation, and I came across a paper on all the information about the GI Bill. The GI Bill will also pay for taking your exams, your board exams, and they'll pay for it every time you take it. So every 10 years, they will pay for it for you. Now, if your job doesn't pay for it, that might be a way to go so you don't have to pay out of pocket. So I just want to mention that. But if your job pays for it, you know, then you're fine that way. Now, there are a lot of special grants and scholarships out there for people who have been in the service. So you have to Google, and you have to have a good finance person at the colleges you're applying to who can hook you up with those special grants and scholarships. It used to be just that, and I don't know what's going to happen, you know, and whether, you know, people are going to be called up to service during the next 5 years, but it is really important that you all, because most of the time, if you're in PA school, they won't pull you from PA school necessarily to deploy you, okay? I lost my train of thought for a second, sorry. But the special grants and scholarships, I'm going to give you a couple of websites to go to that are very familiar with those, and you can go to those websites and really get some of your schooling paid for, if not all of it, okay? The government puts out a lot of these things, the grants and scholarships, that will, just for your service, you know, make you eligible for some of these things, okay? The GI Bill, it's more about how many years you put in and what you were doing when you did put in your service, and how much they will pay for. The Public Health Service is another section. It's kind of like the military. It is a government, you know, part of the same kind, I don't know what to call it, but it is another route for you to go. And believe it or not, they will do both grants and scholarships also, and loan repayment, okay? If you go back into the service after PA school, they will do loan repayment also. You usually have to give them, I think last time I checked, it was 3.5 years, and they would pay for your schooling in full. The Public Health Service is about the same. You have the same ranks, just like in the military, And like, I have a friend who's in the public health service who is a commander now, and he writes policy now in his 50s for the CMS, which is basically Medicare and Medicaid, okay? The government programs. So you don't have to stay in doing the clinical stuff forever, but they will require you to do usually family medicine for the first few years. And the public health service also does loan repayment, but they also do scholarships. So I had a student who applied who was an excellent student, and she's still in the public health service. She got her schooling paid for as she was going through it, and then she just had to be in a clinic that was recognized by the public health service as an underserved area, which, believe it or not, is not that hard to do. We have so much. It's not just being out in the rural areas, although those areas usually do qualify, but also like living in Florida and being down in Miami. I had a colleague who was at a clinic in the center of Miami because it was so impoverished that qualified as an underserved community. And so that was also, she worked there for 3.5 years, put her time in. They paid for all her schooling, and then she had no more loans. So the public health service is nice in that you aren't really going to get deployed to the same level of battle that you're going to do as a military service member. You may get deployed if there's a natural disaster or an earthquake or a hurricane or tornado. You know, you might get deployed for a couple weeks for that, but it's not like being deployed for the military where you go over for 6 months to a year. So it's a very different kind of a commitment. But these are the special things that you as a service member should check out and should try to use to help you get your schooling paid for. Okay, so military.com is a great resource. They show all kinds of things and have a plethora of resources that you guys can utilize to help you when you're doing your applications from the minute you think you're going to PA school all the way through to when you graduate. The Student Veterans of America is an organization that also I've never heard my students, I just learned about by doing the research for this presentation. And you can hold positions, leadership positions in this group. You can apply for scholarships. There's all kinds of resources that they will help you reach out and use, and you'll be qualified for because you are veterans, okay? These are really, really good resources. I highly suggest you all check them out. Okay, so as we're wrapping up my little presentation part, then we're going to talk more about some scenarios and whatever questions you all have, okay? Just remember, if you're going for an interview, you want to practice, have somebody, you know, write down a couple sample questions and have somebody test you and see how you speak and communicate. Do your research the schools that you really want to go to. We have over 300 programs in this country now, and there are a lot to choose from. And making sure that you're applying to ones where you have the right prerequisites, whether it be community service hours, patient care, you know, or the proper courses, whatever it is, you want to make sure you're making your dollars that you're applying for these applications and the places where you have the best chance of getting in, okay? And then don't forget to network. If I can't reiterate this enough, the minute you start thinking, I used to tell my students, the day you started in the classroom here with me is the day that your profession starts. It's really way before that. It's when you start thinking about applying to school, you are really starting your profession because you are networking. You're trying to find connections of people locally that you can follow and shadow. You're pursuing things that you're passionate about and doing volunteer time. And all of these things that you're doing are all networking because you never know who somebody knows. okay? And you can always use those connections. So, people say, they used to say in my day, oh, don't burn bridges. And that is exactly right. You never want to burn bridges. You never want to leave a job, that can possibly help you in some way, on bad terms. So try to keep those things in mind as you're going through this and as you're making those applications to all these schools that are out there.